Hello and welcome back to the Grumpy Bagel podcast. I am your host Megan. You can find me on Ravelry and Instagram as the Grumpy Bagel. Thank you for joining me today. It's been another while, as it usually is in between episodes lately, it feels like. Life has happened again. I'm not going to go into details right now, but one of my uncles describes it as that we don't necessarily get good news anymore, we get less bad news. So that's been affecting me and my scheduling, some of my productivity. Oh, this is a knitting podcast, by the way, if you're wondering, coming to you from Central California. Has been over a month since I recorded last, and I could blame that on February being February and passing you by quickly, but you know, you can only get away with that once. I keep forgetting about things. A couple situations that have arisen, some family things that I'm dealing with. I keep forgetting what I'm doing next week. There have been more than one thing. A few things, how about that? That are brought to my attention that are, going to be happening soon. It's like, no, that's 3 months away. No, Megan, it's next week. What? And stuff like that. And that mixed into already dealing with anxiety and depression and insomnia. I have been having the weirdest dreams lately. They're not nightmares, really, but they're just incredibly stressful dreams where nonsensical things are happening, but they're very stressful and I can't do anything about them, and then I wake up. So that's fun. And scheduling at work has gone a little sideways in the past week, so that's also been fun. I've been managing to hold on to my days off, though, especially since I'm leaving to be out of the state next week. And, there's stuff I got to get ready for. And that has absolutely nothing to do with knitting, but hey, I felt like sharing today. I am also recording really last minute. I made up some show notes last night, but I wasn't even sure that I was going to record today. I meant to record last week when I had a day off, but then I had a emergency and I had to go to the dentist and have a chipped tooth taken care of, so all better now. It was much less bad than I was anticipating because, anxiety. And the last time anything went wrong with my teeth, I had to get all my wisdom teeth taken out, so I just assume that's going to be the next step is, having your teeth pulled out and stitches and blood and mushy food for weeks, but that didn't happen this time, so yay for me, I guess. So, rambling already. Sorry. Let me go ahead and get into some finished objects for you. So, the first thing I have is I finished my Clinkerbell cowl, which is designed by Casapinka. I used a Woolen Boon DK yarn in the purple drink colorway, and I ended up knitting the large size. So I'm not sure if how well you can see it, but how the spaces in between the textured stitches get smaller and smaller as you go up, so that was really fun. Let's finish that. I finished my Star Shower cowl by Hilary Smith Callis. I used, it's already just folded, some Nerd Girl Yarns Shimma in the I'm Not in the Mood for Vikings colorway. Sorry if I'm going through everything really quick. I have just since I haven't been recording, I've just been letting things pile up, and then that stresses me out, so I just want to be able to get through them for you and, stuff. So, my Star Shower. I knit another Brunswick beanie, which is by Sue Granfield, and I used some leftovers from my Artist of Pentacles hat with the Nerd Girl Yarns Clever, which is also in the I'm Not in the Mood for Vikings colorway, to knit another beanie for my dad. So here it is on its own. It swirled really, really cool this time. So we'll wear that for when he sleeps. I'm going to cuff it up. I also finished my Stash Buster. I just bound off a few minutes ago, so it hasn't been blocked, so hence the roughly edge here. Stash Buster by Heather Haynes. I used a skein of Destination Yarns, oh, what was it? Letter Plus in the Winterfell colorway. And there's going to be a few things that I'm only going to be able to show you pictures of because they have already gone to the intended recipients. They were gift knits because, you know, time has obviously passed and they needed to get to the people to be their presents. So the first one is I made an Oak Trail hat by Alana Dacos of Never Not Knitting. It was one of her first, I feel like it was one of her first designs. It was really innovative of knitting the brim as a long strip, and then you're able to wrap it around and then do some short rows to start making up the crown of the hat this way. So that was... Sorry, brain. I forgot what I was going to say about it. I don't think I had anything to say about it. That's weird. The yarn was some Western Sky Knits Magnolia, which is their MCN blend in their worsted weight, in the color Smoked Lilac. So I'll put a photo up here. And I also finished some vanilla socks. Again, don't have the sock blockers with me. In some Invictus Yarns Unconquerable Soul BFL in the colorway 13 for the 13th Doctor. Those finished. Sorry if there's some ambient noise that you can hear. There are more people at home today, which also makes me a little nervous just because I shouldn't. I don't know. Whatever. Let's see, what was the next thing? Some more vanilla socks. I'll put another picture up. It was out of a skein of Once Upon a Corby Marie Cutie, which is her Cordale base, in the colorway God Killer. So put them up here for you. More vanilla socks. I made some stripy socks out of my skein. I think I showed it last time, of Biscot Yarns Bis Sock in the Titanic base, sorry, Titanic colorway. Came out really... Oh. We're vacuuming, I guess. I'll go ahead and stop for a little bit. Okay, I think he's moving away from here, so I think I can go ahead and keep recording. So, again, Bis Sock in the Titanic colorway. These are really fun. And I managed to find a mini, kind of a random mini somewhere of a blue that almost matches on there. So not so much to be distracting. And I did a Dutch heel on this one since I think I'm going to use that whenever I do a self-striping sock, just because, so I can, you know, not have really skinny stripes over my instep. So I'm going to keep in that one. Another project I need to put up a photo for because they've already been given away. If you follow me on Instagram, you will have seen these already. I made gravel socks by Mina Phillip, also known as the Knitting Expat, for the knit-along that was hosted by Paper Daisy Creations for the Lots of Socks knit-along, which was to raise awareness and funds for Down Syndrome International. And World Down Syndrome Day was on May 21st. So I made some gravel socks. So sorry, I should explain a little more. You get, not that entries are the most important thing about this, but you got extra entries, or entries at all, if you used a pattern from the sponsored designers of the knit-along, and Mina was one of them. And then you got more if you used yarn from a sponsored dyer. And I used Invictus Yarns. She had a special sock set from, what was the base? Look at my notes. For Master of My Feet, which is a merino nylon blend. They were two 50-gram minis, or halvesies, she called them, in yellow and royal blue, which are the colors for Down Syndrome International. and I made socks for my mom out of them. So, because her uncle, who's only 5 years older than her, her Uncle Richard had Down syndrome. He sadly passed away a few years ago, and we miss him greatly, all of us. But he and my mom were absolute best friends while they were growing up. And like I said, there was such a small difference in their age, and yeah, we miss him a lot. So one of the things that you do on World Down Syndrome Day is that you wear brightly colored socks, hopefully mismatched, just to raise awareness. Just say that, they're different, but, they still work. There's nothing less valuable about the socks just because they're mismatched. So I think a good lesson that everybody can learn. So I made those for Mom. I will put a picture up here. I think that's going to be the last thing I need to put up a picture for. And my last project was some snowy toe socks by Chin Annalee. And I made these out of my sock box from Little Skein and the Big Wool's Kindred Spirits Sock Club. Let's see if I can get them up here. So they are a coordinating set of yarn. Are they gorgeous? I'm really proud of how these came out. So as you'll remember, the sock kit comes with two 50-gram skeins of main colors here, and then a coordinating mini skein or quarter skein. So the colors in that box were, the pink was Fairy Arch, the gray was White Frosted Morning, and this deep blue was Silent Night. So I just took the pattern and reversed for one sock the main color and contrast color 1, which is what you'd use for this center, this center band of color work here, and then for the toe. And then I just reversed my main color and my contrast color for the second sock, and then kept my contrast color 2 the same for the Silent Night. And I did these almost just according to pattern. There is in the pattern, and you can see this on the project page, so I'm not giving anything away. There is a small band of color work that's supposed to go right above the ankle here. That's almost the same as what you see right here. Just some, inverse colors. And I decided not to put that in because, for one thing, I have a high instep to begin with. So I didn't want there'd be anything more that could tighten around my ankle as I was putting on the socks. Because, another story, airplane goes by. Anyway, knitting story. There are, I think, 4 sizes for this pattern. And this extra small starts with 56 stitches. And normally on, a vanilla sock that I make for myself, I always use 56 stitches. And I looked at these, and knowing that the inherent nature of color work, or, stranded color work in this case, it's not really Fair Isle, but, stranded color work, is that it will always end up being a little tight. That's just how it is, because you have the floats carrying in the background. It's not the same as your general knitted fabric. It's going to be a little bit tight. I knew this, and I thought, I'll cast on 56 stitches anyway. It'll work. I got down to the ankle and then tried it on just for size. I couldn't even get it around my ankle. There was no way. I even took it off the needles and tried, shoving it up to see, but it was like, no, absolutely no way. So I thought, oh, jeez. And I knew it would happen. I knew, but I did it anyway. So I started over again, went up to 60 stitches, and they fit beautifully. And also, this base, which is the house sock, I forgot to say, I think. Well, now. The house sock is a plumper base, so all things considered, I should have just gone for that to begin with. Maybe they'll be a little bit roomy, but, look how cozy they look. I love them. Like I said, I'm really happy with how they turned out. And I did take the mini beforehand, this dark blue. And because of some other projects that I've used recently where I had trouble with the darkest color bleeding a lot as the project was washed and blocked, I went ahead and took some preventative measures on this first color. I've never had trouble with little skein colors bleeding on me before, but I was just really afraid of what might happen. So I took the mini skein and soaked it in some lukewarm water and got out my dye pot and heated the water up like I would if I was dyeing another skein, which I'm not. Put some more citric acid in and then put the wet mini skein in there just to try to get the color to set. And there was barely any dye in the water. And I forgave it just because it's such an intense blue. It's like, yeah, it's just going to happen. But I was happy with the result anyway, then let it dry, skeined it up, and used it in this sock. And as you can see, there's no bleeding at all. I mean, there's speckles here, but that's what this is supposed to be. So that's not what that is. But they turned out quite beautifully, I think. Very proud of them. I don't know if you can hear him, but now he's getting closer to my door, so we're going to have a little tea break. He's still vacuuming. Okay, I think we can keep recording now. So I will go on to works in progress now. That's finally all the finished objects done. So my first project is a vanilla sock. Just gone past the cuff and getting into the leg. This is out of Laser Sheep yarns in the Laser Sock base, which is their standard 75/25 Rainer nylon in the colorway 9th Sheep, inspired by Christopher Eccleston's The Ninth Doctor, who was technically he was my first Doctor, and no one should skip 9. He's awesome, sassy, love him. So, 9th Sheep. My second work in progress is, gasp, a sweater. Look, I have not made an adult garment in over 2 years. This is major. There's lots of reasons that I haven't knit garments. One is because in this climate, in my neck of the world, I lost my train of thought. Where I live, we don't really need wool sweaters because it gets cold, but that's all relative. It doesn't get that cold here. It's California, for goodness sake. And then the rest of the time it's hot. So I've made worsted weight sweaters before and then never wore them because it never got cold enough for me to wear them. And then I realized that I can make fingering weight sweaters, which are a lot more versatile and easier to carry around. Last a little bit longer, but then, I get more bang for my knitting buck. So, and then, everyone, I think, has their own issues with their bodies. And we'd rather knit for how we'd like to look instead of what we are, no matter what the difference between the two of those is. And I think I've been hearing more and more people talking about that it's healthy and liberating to just knit your size, because this is what you are now. Embrace it. Maybe it'll change, and if it does, you can knit a new sweater. But, don't let that stop you from knitting nice things for yourself now. And there's so many more people who can say that a lot better than me. So I went ahead and bit the bullet and started my lovely sweater here. This is So Faded by Andrea Mowry. I am using some of my precious Paris collection yarn from Destination Yarns, which is in, I already forgot the base name, First Class, MCN. So I'm going to use 4 colors. I started out with Montmartre for this top, And I am almost done with using Palais Garnier for my second color. And let me show you, I'm using that. I am alternating these. Because several things happened with this sweater. I did not alternate for Mamart up at the top because I was happy with how it was looking, and especially when you get into the raglan shaping, you have so many stitches on the needles that it can break up the color quite nicely. And then I did the melting section down into Palais Garnier, and I had already anticipated this, but I quickly realized I was going to need to alternate skeins to prevent massive pooling. Because as it was just like the perfect amount to just get like one red column all down this side, and then, you know, a yellow column all on my back, and then just swaths of black and beige in between. With that wasn't really what I wanted to do. So I alternated between the outside of my cake of yarn and the center, and it ended up just pooling in two separate areas. Like I was just getting a pile, a column of red here, I'm not sure how well you can see it, and a column of red just here, and then it would just go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It wasn't breaking up or swirling around in any way. And I found this very frustrating. And I was trying to think of what on earth I could do to change that. And then I tried helical knitting, which I don't get into how you do it here because that deserves tutorial videos all on its own. But it's a really interesting way of treating circular knitting, because when you alternate skeins, I'm not sure how any of this is going to come out of my mouth, but you still treat a circular object like it's a flat one. But with helical knitting, you treat everything as a circle. And I like the idea of it. I want to do it again for more things. But when I did that, so I broke my skein up into 3 equal balls, you know, for what I had already, obviously this one's smaller, but I'd already used some of it up in the raglan shaping. And I thought, this is it. I'm finally going to fix it. And then it just started pooling in 3 different areas. And I had a bit of not an episode, I was just really frustrated. And ripped everything out again, started it over, put it in a timeout, and then the latest episode of Legacy Knits with Sue and Chelsea, they were talking about, I think Chelsea's working on her Comfort Cardi. The DK version of this one. I can't remember, I'm sorry. But she's having issues with putting in a shawl collar on her sweater. And she's already done it a couple of times. And she was just expressing her frustration on that. And Sue said how and I always hesitate to call myself a creative person. I don't know why. But for a creative person, a lot of people don't always understand how frustrating something like that is to you when the project is not meeting your expectations or the vision that you had in your head, and you will not rest until you get it right. And you won't settle for anything less in the meantime. Sometimes that's not very healthy, but it's how our brains work. And it just helped to make me remember I'm not the only one who deals with this. There's going to be lots of times when I feel this way in the future. It's not the end of the world. So what I ended up doing was ripping it back to where I had started. And then I tried just alternating the 3 skeins that I did have, since I'd already broken it up, and it finally started to work. And you can see here how it's starting to swirl around. And also, I put in waist shaping. There is no waist shaping in the pattern. I don't think I'm giving anything away by saying that. And one, in desperation to break up the pooling that was happening on the sweater, and just an attempt to make it a little more flattering for my body type, I started putting in waist shaping, and I think it finally worked. Yay! It's not a disaster. So I have my progress keeper in here just to remind me of where I started just using Palais Garnier by itself when I wasn't melting in the color, so I can remember where to start measuring so that I have all of my color sections as evenly spaced as possible. And I have my coilless stitch markers in to help me keep track, because I'm trying to keep track of multiple things at once, and instead of having several pieces of paper and stitch counters, I'm resorting to using this, try to keep myself sane. Good luck with that. So that is my So Faded. I am going to finish with Palais Garnier just in a few rows. Then I'm going to go into Parisian Fog. Show you up here. And then I'm going to finish with City of Lights, which I'll probably have to do the same alternating on this one as well, just to make sure everything goes according to plan. And my last work in progress is a pattern that has taken Ravelry and Instagram by storm, rightfully so, and is a rabbit hole that I have fallen down hard. See if you can recognize it. Yes, I started A Northeasterly Blanket by Melissa, oh, I always forget, sorry. Melissa Alexander Loomis of Skinanigans. Try to show you this strip here. There we go. Oh man, it's all fitting. Haha. Yes, I made the beginnings of A Northeasterly Blanket. This came out at exactly the right time for me, because I am basically finished with my scrappy sock yarn blanket, which took up a lot of time in January for me because the end was in sight and I really wanted to get it done. And I'm not going to show it to you right now because 1, it's over there, 2, it's humongous, and 3, I'd rather show you when I have the edging on it finally. So, but I still have lots of fingering leftovers, and what am I going to do with them? And I wanted to make another blanket, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to make another mitered square blanket, or at least, no, I still wanted to make a mitered square blanket, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to make the exact same one over again. And I was just looking for something different, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And then this pattern came out, and it was the answer to all of my concerns. So, the great thing about the pattern is that you don't have to have a specific amount of each color in order to make I want calling them squares, but they're not, each section. So you can use even the tiniest scraps to make just like 1 or 2 ridges in here, and then keep on going. And initially, when I started, I had done that. I got every single little scrap that I could find and tried to randomly pick the colors and put them in like that. So I'd have a big section. I was going to keep it to like 15 garter ridges max, because I have pretty substantial cakes of leftovers, and I didn't want a huge swath of one color. I still wanted to break it up. But then anything under that, it was like, even if it was just 2 ridges that I could get in, I was going to go with it, and then just whatever came out of the bag, I was going to do. And I tried very hard to do it that way. But I quickly realized, as nice as that sounds, I'm just not that sort of knitter. And I felt bad about it for a while, which is silly. But it felt too forced for me. I looked at the blanket and it wasn't me. So I took it out and started over, and just kept 2 pieces of yarn or scraps that I knew could fill out one of these sections. And I stayed with 30 stitches, or 15 garter ridges in here. That looks good to me. It's a nice size. That's just my personal preference. But I have trouble with being random. So, because even when looking at scraps, I start to plan to a certain point, and I wanted to try to get away from that, but still be happy with what I did. So I came up with a solution. Behold, the jar of randomness. So I made a list of all of the colors in my scraps, and I put all of the colorway names on a little slip of paper and fold them up so I can't see it. And when I'm ready to do a new block, I reach in, shuffle it around, pull one out, and then I'll knit that one. Sometimes. Sometimes it's just too close to another color that I thought, no, it's just going to blur into the other one, so I don't do that. So it's not exactly random, but it's as random as I can get because I have issues apparently. So I have been, sorry, let me put this down so I don't drop it. So I have been working just 3 columns at a time. That's comfortable for me. And I decided to just do 30 blocks high. I think it's going to be about 21 blocks wide. I'm not sure yet. I'll have to see. But this took up so much time in January and February. It's like, such a time suck, but like in the best way possible. I love it. I can't wait to have enough colors to do the next one, the next set of columns again. So thank you, Melissa, for such a great pattern. I have been absolutely loving this. I just realized what time it is and I have to be ready to go somewhere. So I'm going to try to get through acquisitions as quickly but smoothly as I can. So the first things I have to show you are from Once Upon a Corgi. It wouldn't be a podcast without Once Upon a Corgi yarn. I got, this is the first time I've used this base from her. It is her, Tweety base, that's what it is. It is called Iron. So it's a blue-faced Leicester and nylon, wait a minute, no, sorry, superwash, blue-faced Leicester, and 15% Dunkel Neps. Got this lovely blue. This color is Viseron. I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't watch Game of Thrones. Shh, don't tell anybody. So, here, I'll show you here. It's lovely gray blue. And in the same base, I got Nose Stuck in a Book. This lovely pinky, almost brown in it. Just a Beauty and the Beast reference. So, of course, love it. I caught a Stranded Dyeworks update and got her MCN base in Frostbite, which is a color I have been wanting for a long time. It's wonderful white speckled with blue and purple. And I got her merino nylon base in the colorway Anti-Valentine. Isn't it pretty? And I agree with the sentiments, so bonus. I got my first Sweet Sparrow yarns in the Magpie base, which is a Stellina base. And I've seen this colorway before, and it doesn't come up into her shop very often because it's self-striping, and by her own admission, it is a more labor-intensive dye project. But I got, so yeah, it's the Magpie base, merino, superwash merino nylon, and Stellina. And this is also my first gobstopper style ball of yarn that I've gotten. Oh, isn't it beautiful? And it is called, there's coffee in that nebula. So, Captain Janeway yarn, Star Trek. Awesome. And I think this is going to end up being from my mom because she loves coffee, and Star Trek Voyager was a big thing for us to share when I was really little. Because when it was on, when it was airing, it came on past my bedtime. So she would record it that night, and then when I got up the next day, we'd have breakfast and watch Star Trek together. So that was a bonding thing for us. So, and Captain Janeway is just awesome, of course. So, sorry. And some more Star Trek inspired yarn. Another first for me from Turtle Pearl, who does excellent self-striping colorways. This is her striped turtle toes base. I got live long and prosper. Spock yarn. And I went ahead and got the gold mini to go along with it for heels and toes. So, 1, Spock, 2, Vulcans, 3, original series uniform colors. What could be more perfect? And so this is how it's going to look, the striping pattern when they're done. I'm so happy I got this. And of course I have to get you caught up on the Nerd Girl Yarns Who's Your Doctor Club. I get the Bounce and Stomp base. So the first colorway I have to show you is inspired by Dr. 13, or 13th Doctor, Jodie Whittaker. It's called Oh Brilliant, for her first lines. Isn't it pretty? Oh, it's perfect for her costume. I can't wait to see how this knits up. I'm thinking socks. I don't know, it might have to be a fun hat, but... And the second one is, I just got it 2 days ago. This is the Impossible Astronaut. Which, one, it's gorgeous. The blue is perfect. I have to have this up close to my face, I think. And the Impossible Astronaut, the identity of the Impossible Astronaut so far has been my favorite story arc in New Who. And I watched all the episodes again last night because I was so excited. But, oh, it's so pretty. There is a lot of gray and blue in this episode today. I have, oh, I forgot something. I forgot the stitch marker that goes with this set, but it is there now. I got the new latest box of the Kindred Spirits sock box from Little Skein and the Big Wool, which is inspired by Anne of Green Gables. This month the inspiration was Anne and Miss Stacy, who was her, not her first teacher, but her main teacher in Avonlea, and the one who influenced her the most to aspire to great things. So here they are. Beautiful. So the Progress Keeper is a ruler, appropriate for Miss Stacy. And this is in the House Sock, which is her Targhee base. And the mini that comes with it is called Pinafore. And I'm not sure exactly which color is which for the main skeins, but as far as I can tell, this is just my guess, this is Queen's Academy, which is where Anne goes to college. And, let's see, what was it? True and Helpful Friend. Oh, it's blowing out. That's a little better. So, latest in the sock box. And I was struggling to think of what I needed to put up for Current Obsession, because I've been kind of bouncing around on different things. My attention span seems so short because I keep forgetting stuff, like I was telling you before. But the newest thing for me is a podcast called Girl in Space. I'm going to try to pull it up here so you can see a thumbnail. It's by Sarah Ray Werner. I'm not sure how she prefers to pronounce it. There. So yeah, the Girl in Space podcast, which is a fictional podcast. It's set at some indeterminate point in the future, and is the audio diaries of a girl in space who has been alone on her research vessel, also for an indeterminate amount of time. And I don't know how to explain it without spoiling anything, because so much of it is just revealed gradually, and things that you took for granted, or, as soon as I finished it, and warning, the last episode has not been released yet, and I don't know when it's going to be released, so I got to the end, and it was a huge cliffhanger, and I'm just like, what happens? And even at that point, I had to listen to it all over again, because there's so many clues and foreshadowings that you don't get the first time, but then the second time and even the third time through, it was like, oh, that's what we're getting to. So it's very, very well done. I really want to check out her other podcasts for just not just for her writing, because she's an excellent writer, and she is also the voice performer for the main character, also excellent. So yeah, check it out. I really enjoyed it. And I think that's all I have to show you guys today. Thank you for sticking with me. And I am going to have to stop and try to get ready and leave within 15 minutes. So yay! Thank you for checking me out again. If you enjoyed, please consider liking and subscribing. Again, you can find me on Ravelry and Instagram as The Grumpy Bagel. I will see you sometime in the future. Bye.